It's really tough recording these videos in the winter because, as you can see, the sun is setting already and it's about 4 p.m. So I basically have no light to work with. But maybe it'll help the mood. So a few days ago, I put a little poll on my Instagram story asking about what you guys wanted next, and it was pretty tight, but in the end, between Crazy Travel Story and more Montreal stuff, Crazy Travel Story won, just by like 2 votes. Thank you. I've really been wanting to start telling travel stories because I think back in my Why Did I Move to Montreal video, that was one of the main things I wanted to do with this channel, to tell stories that I've accumulated over the course of all my travels as a way to both preserve them before I forget them entirely and to share them with a whole new audience. So finally, 2018, I get to do this, so I'm pretty psyched. So I was looking back through all the travel stories I could start off with, because this is going to be the first one on the channel, and I was thinking, let's start with the craziest, most messed up story that I have. That'll get your attention. I haven't told this story to many people because I'm not that fond of reliving it, but I feel like it's a story that deserves to be told. I feel like I need to get into the mood of this story a little more, so I'm gonna grab the clothes that I was wearing through that trip. Alright, wow, these have not aged well. This is the result of constant friction of this shirt against my backpack. This little backpack right here, which has also been torn to pieces. I think that's my butt. Travel wear and tear. If you enjoy this story, please feel free to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see some more travel stories and also more stuff about Montreal. Just to preface this, everything in this story is 100% true. And just a quick warning that some people might find this story disturbing. This is the story behind one of the scariest experiences of my travels so far. So it started way back in November 2015 when I was traveling solo through Sri Lanka for 3 weeks. My parents are Sri Lankan, so I've been countless times before, but this is my first time traveling on my own, so my first time really properly discovering the country. I visited family at the very start and at the very end, but for the good 2 weeks in between, I was off on my own navigating this beautiful, unbelievably diverse little island. If you ever have the chance to go, I 100% recommend it. It's absolutely stunning. My time in Kandy, a city in the center of the country, had come to an end, and it was time to board the train to my next destination of Ella in the Central Highlands. I had made friends with 2 other solo travelers, a British girl from Southern England and a French girl from Paris. We decided to band together and explore the tea country and the beaches in the south for the next few days. It was great. It's always nice to have some good company around, and the savings on accommodation don't hurt too much either. I was extremely excited as I had heard it was one of the most beautiful train rides in the world, but I was also a little worried as to whether I would manage to grab a seat at all. Fellow travelers had told me horror stories about the mad rush to get onto the train and that they had barely any room to move, only managing to find a spot on the floor in the way of the open train door, an experience they also loved every minute of. Out of our group of 3, I was the only one who missed out on getting a reserved second class ticket. They'd sold out by the time I tried to buy one, so my only option was to rock up in the morning, buy a second class ticket, a regular one, wait for the train to arrive, rush on board, and hope to grab a seat. The clock hit 11 a.m. and I was ready. Wearing this shirt, huge backpack on my back, huge backpack on my front. The train pulled up to the station and I leaped on board as soon as the passengers disembarked. I was expecting absolute chaos, trying to fight through this with my huge backpack, and there was none to be found. The atmosphere was chill and relaxed. I found a seat and I sat down, waited a couple of minutes, got up, and sat somewhere else. There was plenty of time to pick and choose. I was surprised. I guess the mad rush was only for the 9 a.m. train because of everyone trying to get to work, but for the 11 a.m. one, it's super chill. It made me very glad I only paid 200 rupees or $2 for my ticket, whereas the other 2 girls paid 600 rupees for theirs. Soon enough, the girls got up out of their reserved carriage and joined me anyway. What happens on the Kandy to Ella train is that as soon as the train leaves Kandy, almost everyone gets out of their seat, whether it's to poke your head out the window or to dangle your entire body out the side of the train door. I remember at the start of the trip I saw this girl completely hanging out the side of the door like this, and I thought she was completely out of her mind. And then you cut to about 30 minutes later and I was doing the same thing. The doors are completely open with bars to hold on to on the inside and the outside. The first time I tried to do this, I was a little too excited, so I leaned forward to grab the outside bars. And as I leaned forward, the train shook like this. Basically, I nearly fell out of the train and died. Every time I retell that story, my heart sinks because honestly, that could have been it. That would have been like the end for me. It's a beautiful train ride, and hanging out the side of the door is more fun than I can really describe, but it's super, super dangerous. I lost count of the times I was dangling my feet out the train door and the train was cutting a path through the forest and the mountains so tight through like other trees and power lines that these power lines could have cut my legs clean off. It's dangerous stuff. I don't recommend you do it. Just be careful if you do. Quick poll, did you think that was a scary thing? Cause I am only just getting started. This is just setting the scene. It was a long 6 to 7 hour journey, but every second of it was a delight, with the train weaving through stunning mountain ranges, rolling green hills, waterfalls, and tea plantations. I was staring out over the hills with stars in my eyes, and as we approached Ella, it felt like we were arriving at the end of the world as the train traveled through this endless, dense white fog. The views are simply too gorgeous to remain sitting down. My friends and I spent a large portion of our journey up and about, taking photos, hanging out the train door, and watching the world go by. Hanging out by one of the doorways was a tall Sri Lankan man with a DSLR camera. He was well groomed, wearing a pink polo shirt, jeans, and looked like he was in his early 20s. Let's call him Raj. He was from Bandarawela, between Nuwara Eliya and Ella. He was a really nice guy, always smiling and willing to give me the train door to hang outside and take photos. I made a little bit of conversation with him through what basic English we had in common, and so did my French friend. Towards the end of the train ride, we exchanged Facebook details and we split our separate ways once we arrived into the town of Ella. And that was it. Until I received a Facebook message from him the following morning. So for the rest of this video, I'm going to be showing you all the text messages so you can follow along and also make your own conclusions if you want to. Just bringing it up now. Oh my god. He changed his Facebook profile picture to the clown from It. That didn't have to he didn't have to do that. It's making it scarier. I don't like this. Waking up in our Sri Lankan guest house to a picturesque view of Ella Rock through the glass doors towards our balcony, I checked my phone to see good morning message from Raj. I responded in the friendly manner that I would with anybody else, and after exchanging phone numbers, he called me. Like any phone call I've had with Sri Lankans, it was very brief. He told me to come to Little Adams Peak, and I said we might come after we visited the tea plantations on our scooters. Following that was a long, awkward silence, and then he hung up. At this point, I was just thinking, oh, it's a friendly local who wants to show us around. How nice of him. But then his messages persisted and kept getting more and more pushy in the process. Turns out he wasn't asking me to go to Little Adams Peak. He was already there, waiting for me. Come is beautiful, I am in Adams Prak now. Come Adams Prak, now I am come here. Come, I am waiting for you. Come, okay, come here. Broken English in tow. And then came all his photos from the place in his efforts to convince me. Mate, we haven't even had breakfast yet. Normally when someone I've met while traveling asks me to go do something spontaneous, I jump at the opportunity. I've hopped into strangers' cars while walking on the side of the road in far-flung countries. I've been ambushed by a group of Serbians who just came back from a wedding, and I joined them for a beer. And I partied with a group of strangers in Sevilla at my hostel who I'd never met 5 minutes prior. There are a lot of good people in this world, and I feel like I've become quite adept at gauging out the bad ones. But this one seemed a little off. Why was he so persistent? I discussed the possibility of going there with the others, and we made the logical decision to continue with our plans to go visit the tea plantation on our scooters, so I politely told him so. But I don't think he understood. He was still waiting for us at Little Adams Peak. I told him to meet us in Ella Town at a restaurant, and he responded, "No, you come Adams Peak." And then I responded, "We're hungry." "Okay, you come Adams Peak, I am waiting for you. Are you come?" 10 minutes later. "Are you come? Your hotel name, please. Now where are you?" It was baffling. You might think at this point, what the hell, Lashan? Shouldn't this already start ringing alarm bells? But let me preface the rest of the story with this. I am Sri Lankan Australian. I was born in Australia, and my parents are Sri Lankan. None of this was weird to me. This is how Sri Lankans talk on the phone, and this is how Sri Lankans text. It's always direct, it's always straight to the point, kind of awkward. That's how they text in my experience. My cousin who lives in Sri Lanka would text me pretty much exactly like this. So it really wasn't out of the ordinary for me. It's the language barrier, differences in cultural etiquette, I assumed. Maybe he's just trying to be nice. Neither of my friends were that weirded out either. It was later in the day that we became a bit more wary. After repeated attempts to meet up, our plans finally converged and we decided to meet up at the waterfall. It was a risk going all the way there as we were running out of fuel and also time to return our scooters, but we decided to go anyway. As we were racing through thick clouds down winding mountain roads to get to the waterfall, Raj intercepted us in the back of a tuk-tuk, just as happy as he was when we met him. Guess it was just a language barrier. He smiled and waved before whipping out his DSLR camera to take some awesome shots of us on our scooters. I really wanted those photos. We caught up with him at the waterfall where we hopped off our scooters to go check it out. This is where it got kinda strange. I smiled and waved, he smiled and he waved back before going off on his own to take photos the entire time. No conversation. So after all that effort, once we finally did meet up, he didn't even interact with us. He was just a presence. He was there, and that was it. It was weird. After we had a look around, I told him that we had to go return our scooters. He said okay and smiled, and then we sped off. We were running on empty the entire half-hour ride, but we managed to make it back. The next day we were leaving for Nuwara Eliya. That night he messaged me for the train time. Are you Ella? You're going tomorrow. Your train time, tell me tomorrow. Are you sleeping? This isn't gonna stop. I didn't want to, but after repeated demands, I gave it to him. He responded, you is my good friend now. And I responded in kind, purely out of courtesy. The next morning, we boarded the train to Nuwara Eliya. He met us on the train at Bandarawela station. Again, he did the same thing. A smile and a wave, and zero interaction. A presence and nothing more. After he appeared on the train, Lou, who was sitting in front of me, leaned over the back of her chair and asked, Lashan, do you have a stalker? Yeah, I think I do. But why would he stalk me? This isn't making any sense. Something didn't really add up. After this small realization, I decided to ignore any future messages altogether. After this point, we're not going to try and meet up or talk to the guy. Once we disembarked the train in Nuwara Eliya, we had to look for a taxi to take us to our guest house. Raj disappeared, only to reappear literally out of nowhere. I have no idea how that happened. I was trying to keep an eye out as well, offering us a ride with him in a tuk-tuk that he flagged down. A band of 3 with our massive backpacks were a little too much for a tuk-tuk, so we declined, saying we wouldn't fit, and we found our own way. And then the messages just kept coming. Asking where we were, demands for our hotel name, assertive invitations to go to more natural sites like World's End. But I wasn't responding to any of it. I wanted this crap to end. The messages started to sour. Are you busy? Are you angry with me? Tomorrow join me, we going to World, send okay. We were having lunch at the time and the 3 of us were discussing what the hell this guy wanted. He wasn't messaging any of the girls, just me and only me. And what we should do next. We rationalized the whole conversation as just being difficulties with the language barrier and cultural differences. But still, the way he interacted with us, or didn't interact with us in person, was quite strange. Maybe he didn't know how to interact with people? I sent him a message saying we were just busy. Within 30 seconds, we got a response. And suddenly, everything became crystal clear. He sent me a picture, one from the train to Ella from when we first met him. It was a picture of him and Chloe. Please give a phone call. I love your friend. Tell him. I love your friend. Please help me, friend. Tell him I love. I am joined with you. He was in love with the French girl. That's why he was messaging me. That's why he was so doggedly persistent. That's why he was chasing us across the country to get to her through me. All the confusion surrounding the past couple of days instantly evaporated. That's all it was. Whew. After we realized, we all had a bit of a laugh before settling down. Oh my god. Alright, so now what do? We needed a way to neutralize the situation definitively and effectively, without coming across as too harsh. Chloe was single, but we decided to pretend she had a boyfriend. I loved it. Simple, foolproof, and very, very original. I gave Raj the bad news, to which he immediately apologized, and the barrage of messages stopped. We all breathed a sigh of relief. It It's over. We could finally get on with our holiday. I just really wanted to put this in the video. Where's my remote? Until 3 hours later, when I received a message so horrifying that I literally threw my phone across the room after glancing at it. So he sent me a photo of his arm with 5 slashes across his wrist. He was self-harming. Good Lord. And then the flood of text messages just kept coming. This is messed up. I love your friend. I am crazy with it, friend. I love you. Tell it, friend. I am crazy at friend. Tell him, my friend. It's really love. I was pacing across the floor of our guest house, hands up in the air. I am out. I am done with this. Chloe had a look, and so did Lou. Everyone was a little in shock. This is messed up. So what had begun as a small friendly exchange on a train, which is something I've had plenty of, including on that very same train, led to us being stuck in a small town with a guy who's madly obsessed with one of our friends, chased us around the country to get to her, is completely out of his mind, has a knife, and is willing to use it. Clearly. And we're here for 2 nights. The only thing we had going for us was that I didn't give him the name of our guest house. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I only had nightmares. After we calmed down, we knew this had gotten way out of hand and that we had to end the situation then and there at all costs. Enough being nice. That hadn't gotten us anywhere. I completely changed my tone in the next message. I told him this wasn't my problem, urged him not to harm himself and to stop messaging me. He told me to tell Chloe he loved her, so I did. Surprisingly, she didn't give a shit. Then I told him to stop, and that was that. The rest of our time in Nuwara Eliya was a little tense since we knew we could run into this guy at any given moment. It kept us a little on edge, especially considering how we've run into so many other travelers again and again just on this trip. Hopefully, he just packed his things and went home. Thankfully, he didn't know where we were going next either. I still had him added on Facebook at that point. But 2 days later, he started sending me another nonsense message to which I immediately blocked him before I could see the rest. My morbid curiosity had reached its limit and I didn't want to know anymore. At that point, it was done. He had my Sri Lankan phone number, but he didn't call me. We were free to enjoy the rest of our travels in peace, so we did. Climbing the full-size Adams Peak in the middle of the night for the sunrise, which is another story that I'll be sharing on this channel. So subscribe if you want to see that. Beaching it up with our last few days together in the southern town of Mathura, and the beautiful Pollena Beach, which is this gorgeous yellow sand beach with like palm trees, with coral reefs just off the shore. I was so distracted by all the beauty that was a meter or 2 meters below the surface that I was just sort of floating there for about at least half an hour. I almost got sunburned. Almost. Before we all split on our separate ways. And that was the story of how I got chased around Sri Lanka by a crazy stalker. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Hopefully you found it sufficiently interesting or entertaining. Please let me know by hitting that like button. It really does help me out. I've got plenty more of these random crazy travel stories to tell. Albeit less messed up than that one, but just as intense and exciting and adventurous. Let me know in the comments what you thought and what kind of story you want to see next. I have a couple more travel stories in my blog, so if you're interested in reading some of those, I've linked that in the description too. My name's Lashan, that was story time, and I'll see you next week with a new video. Okay, bye.